In today's business world, the preponderance of mergers, acquisitions and just changes to an employing organisation means that TUPE transfers are taking place on an ever-increasing basis. This video aims to give you the main highlights of the legislation surrounding TUPE transfers and to give you good practice pointers to keep you safe and legally compliant should you be going down a TUPE transfer route, either transferring staff in or out of your organisation. But let's start with the basics. What does TUPE stand for? It stands for Transfer of Undertakings, Protection of Employment, and that's the name of the piece of legislation which governs the actions of all employers when they are about to transfer staff from one organisation to another. One of the main criteria for ensuring that either you are coming under the legislation or not is clearly to be sure what it covers. I'd like to take you to a website, or suggest that you visit a website which will give you all of the legislative requirements, and that is your starting point. However, like all pieces of legislation, there are some key points within it which you ignore at your peril. So, moving on and using some of the information that's on that website, here are the main criteria for when a TUPE transfer will apply. TUPE will apply when all or part of a sole trader's business or partnership is sold or otherwise transferred. A company or part of it is bought or acquired by another, if the second company buys or acquires the assets and then runs the business rather than acquiring the shares only. When two companies cease to exist and combine to form a third. And a contract to provide goods or services is transferred in circumstances which amount to the transfer of a business or undertakings to a new employer. The key to a successful TUPE transfer is first of all clarity with your staff about why and when a TUPE transfer will be occurring. You have by this stage already established that a TUPE transfer is the appropriate mechanism to be using, and you've satisfied yourself that the legislative context within which you're operating is the right one. Communicating early with staff is essential. The more people know and the sooner they know it, the less likely they are to be worried and concerned and, frankly, suspicious about what is going on. But it's also important to be absolutely clear about what is and is not protected. The point of TUPE legislation is to protect the core employment contractual conditions for which people are working, and if and when they transfer to another employer, they can suffer no detriment. So, whenever you're employing people who are coming to you from another organisation, you cannot change their core contractual conditions if that results in any kind of detriment to the individual. The law is fairly clear about what is and isn't protected. And again, you need to refer to that website or to a legal advisor in order to ensure that you've got all of those core contractual conditions defined, clarified, and costed up. But there are some exceptions to the core contract details. Not all elements of a pension will be protected under TUPE. Some, but not all. You need to check that very carefully. The law is changing on a sort of fairly frequent basis on that one at the moment. And also informal working practices and non-contractual flexible working conditions, for example, won't be covered. So be absolutely clear about what is covered and what isn't. In order for a TUPE transfer to take place appropriately and accurately and legally, you need to have the correct information about things such as an employee's date of continuous service, their salary level, their annual leave entitlement, their sickness entitlement, and issues relating to things like exit arrangements, severance and redundancy pay. All of those matters are covered by TUPE, and so data sets need to be put together for every member of staff which clearly spell out the exact costs and the exact arrangements that each employee has. You need to do this if you're transferring out because any accepting employer needs that information, and you will be found to be in breach of the law if you don't accurately convey that information. And of course, if you're receiving employees in, you need that information in order, again, for you to remain compliant. But very importantly, so you know exactly what kind of financial exposure you're going to have. If you don't know what these people are entitled to in terms of their pay and rations, you can't really make a proper judgment about whether you want to go ahead with the TUPE transfer or not. Remember to allow sufficient time and resources to undertake a TUPE transfer accurately and correctly. It's very easy to underestimate the amount of time and space that you need to get your data sets correctly put together, to ensure that any disputes or questions and queries are going to be answered properly and fully in the time that you have available. And please don't be too ambitious about the date at which you want to go live with your TUPE transfer. Equally, what I've just talked about are the behind-the-scenes pieces of work that you need to do, but you are certain to have a huge volume of questions and queries from your staff, from your trade union representatives, or from your staff side representatives about what exactly will this mean for me, or for my group of people, or for my members of my union. And it's, again, easy to underestimate that. You need to have sufficient time and, indeed, the confidence and the skills to be able to answer those questions. If you don't have them in-house, because, frankly, this is not an everyday activity for most organisations, it's worth thinking about buying that in. You need good legal advice. You need good advice on the processes and the systems that you need to complete in order to do this properly. And it's worth doing properly, because if you get it wrong, you will find yourself embroiled in probably an extremely complex and costly set of legal challenges. To summarise, TUPE in its whole is quite a complicated set of legislative arrangements and requirements, but it can be reduced to a set of fairly clear principles. Make sure you understand those principles. Make sure that you know where the gaps are in your own organisation and whether or not you need to look for some additional help. Be as clear and as early as you can in your communications with your staff and your trade union or staff representatives. And once you've started, make sure you listen and you're ready to deal with challenges and queries as soon as they arise.